Hey folks, walk with me. I was thinking about times when you feel that your heart is overburdened, overly heavy, and just sort of feeling broken. And zooming out a little bit, I was thinking about a lot of the videos that exist on this playlist have to do with, signs of traumatic past, the benefits of acknowledging your trauma or things that have happened to you that have affected you in a traumatic way. And I think there's much more to that story. And one of those things that I wanted to be sure to mention is, when approaching those things, they are seemingly enormous, mountainous giants that are not just multi-layered, but they are crushing. Like, the weight of them can feel completely consuming and crushing. And I was actually listening to a talk given by Thich Nhat Hanh. I know I seem to be jumping all over the place, but I'll tie it together. And in this talk, he was mentioning that before you embark on a journey to deal with your suffering, right? Because he's a Zen Buddhist, and so it's very focused on suffering, right? Before you embark on a journey to try to solve for your suffering or address your suffering or what have you, to be sure that you're getting yourself to a place of calm and comfort and ease, and maybe even some joy, and that you can come to contemplate your suffering through compassion, basically having that standpoint or that vantage point of compassion for yourself and your suffering and the things that you're trying to face and unravel. And, it did strike me quite hard, the idea that, well, if we're just focused on acknowledging, we can swap out trauma with suffering, whatever. If we're just focused on acknowledging those things, looking for signs of those things, and then just tick by tick, right? Day by day, heartbeat by heartbeat, trying to dig in and unpack it. If you're unable to approach that from, as Bessel van der Kolk would say, sort of a place of feeling safe, right? Which I know takes on weird connotations these days, but that is what Thich Nhat Hanh is saying, right? He's saying you feel safe and secure in your mind and in your body. And so then being able to make contact with these things has some sort of feeling or sense of comfort and safety enveloped around it. And if you're able to do that, you can start to approach that ever important piece and step of having compassion for the you that went through the thing that brings you so much suffering. And I think that there's probably a lot of truth and wisdom in that. Not to stand here and say, Thich Nhat Hanh is wise. Bessel van der Kolk had a good idea. And those are sort of obvious things, but I did want to acknowledge that here, that when you're suffering, when your heart is broken, and your instinct or things that you've heard sort of compel you to just dig in, right, and get in the thick of it. If you're doing that from a place of feeling angry about it, tremendously sad and discontented about it, and just that you will sort of melt under the pressure of trying to deal with it all. You know, I don't know that you diving in will unravel a way by which you can find your path to compassion for yourself, and that you know that when you're done contemplating it, that there is some contentment, that there's some joy, there's some stability to be had, and you can set it aside and move on. You know, if you're caught in the throes of it, and in the throes of it means that you are experiencing the heartbreak, the sorrow, the suffering, the trauma, you're experiencing it as though it's still happening today. Being able to get really deep into it while simultaneously being able to further function in life and not just layer additional complexity and sorrow and pain on top of the things that already bring you sorrow and pain, right? The memories. I think that's probably very hard, or maybe impossible to do, to go in with that, to go in from a standpoint of being wounded, being in pain, and not coming from a place of having some sense of safety and having some sense of compassion for yourself. And so I just wanted to throw this out there as maybe something to consider. I don't exactly know what the steps are here in terms of here's some ways to try to feel a sense of safety, to try to feel a sense of contentment or ease, so that when you want to be done thinking about the event or the events, that you can return to that place and not just let it swallow you. Because if you don't have that sense of safety and contentment outside of the suffering or the traumatic events, I suspect you just get swallowed into it more. And that's what I'm talking about, the layering. One traumatic event on top of the other, and then topping it off with you diving in really hard in hopes that you can come to some sense of healing around it, but you're not bringing a healing way. Trying to avoid saying like a healing energy, sounding like I'm going down a new age path. I don't want to sort of isolate people who hear that and immediately think, but you know, if you're not approaching it with some level of healing grace, right, some sense of that, if you're approaching it with this sense of just complete disorientation, sadness, anger, frustration, hopelessness, I think you're going to then be talking about these things that make you feel the way in which you're already bringing feelings into that space, and you're just going to amplify it further. So I'm considering how, what this could look like, and maybe can circle back to it at a time when I have more thoughts. But it struck me as maybe having a lot of truth behind it. That when you are heartbroken, when you're suffering, when you're trying to deal with past trauma, instead of just diving in head first and trying to find your way through the muck, maybe you actually need to, almost like an athlete would train themselves for the Olympic event, that you would be able to situate yourself as best you can in a mindset and in a feeling set that does allow for compassion for yourself and space for a sense of safety and ease and comfort, which I know I'm sort of repeating over and over and over again, but I'm trying to say it in approaches from a few different ways, hoping that I'm sort of making sense here in some way, shape, or form. But those are my thoughts for now. I think there's much more to come on this front. At least it feels like that to me. So we'll see. But if you're suffering out there, if your heart is broken, if you have a lot of pain, anger, hopelessness from past trauma or whatever, you're very much not alone. And I don't know that that's helpful at all, but it's true. All right, folks, we've walked a bit over 12 minutes. So if you did a walk with me, I hope you enjoyed your sights and scenes and smells and feelings. And if you didn't, I certainly appreciate you watching all the way thus far. And as always, I will see you in the next video.